Good morning. I'd like to call the Health Related Formula Advisory Committee to order. It is 10 a.m. for being here this morning. I'm Michael Tremonti with the UT Health Science Center at Houston, or UT Health Houston, the committee chair. Please be advised that the meeting is being broadcast over the internet and recorded, so I'd ask all attendees to silence your cell phones. I actually did so myself today. Also, since we are meeting via Zoom, please mute your connection until you are ready to speak to prevent background noise. Thank you very much. Ms. Berger, if we could begin with the roll call.
All right, good morning. Okay, so we'll start out with Dr. Chase.
Jim Briggs representing Diane Chase.
Thank you. Ms. Gomez-Leon.
Present.
Mr. Wahardo.
Present.
Ms. Harkey.
Here.
Ms. Harms. Dr. Lang.
Good morning, Jessica Fisher representing Dr. Lang.
Okay. Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Ms. Marion Hill.
Present.
Dr. Moray. Mr. Muller.
Here.
Ms. Nace.
Here.
Ms. Shear.
Good morning, Rachel Osterloh representing Lauren Shear.
Thank you. Mr. Tremonti is here, and Ms. Withers.
Present.
Great. Okay, we have a quorum.
Great. So we will move forward. So as everybody probably recalls, we were able to make progress on the first 3 charges, but we tabled 2 for today's meeting. The first of those being charge 4, which was to study and make recommendations on eligibility of remote sites for purposes of the small class supplement. We have distributed the draft of that, and based on some subsequent meetings of the group, we did make a few changes. I think at the initial pass, we had a direct linkage to the multi-campus adjustment part of the infrastructure formula and tied it one to the other. We removed that link, recognizing that whereas the small class supplement could end as class size grows, the multi-class adjustment should not necessarily be impacted. With that, we also tried to bring a little bit of structure, and we borrowed from the multi-class adjustment. And there was a form that has to be submitted for multi-class adjustment purposes to the coordinating board, and the recommendation is to create the form and require the submission of the form when a small class supplement is being requested. A little bit of a added twist, and it's sort of a delicate dance in that we recognize that at times a small class supplement may be requested at the same time a rider is being proposed for that small class supplement or that small class creation. And so there is a possibility that, as it gets submitted, there's not already a pre-existing legislative authority in place. what we've recommended is that the proposed rider would be submitted on this form, so that at least they would run sort of a concurrent path for approval. In the event that the rider didn't get approved, then subsequently the small class supplement could be removed as well. But ideally, that the likelihood of that actually happening is pretty remote in my experience. We also reinforce the fact that it should be a remote teaching site, that it should be on a facilities inventory, and that there should be fiscal and operational responsibility for that site. That is one tweak we also made to the multi-campus adjustment, and really it's a clarification that fiscal and operational responsibility doesn't necessarily dictate you own the facility, but it would allow for you to be leasing the facility, and of course bearing the cost of operating that site. I believe that's probably all the adjustments. We did talk about one other thing, and I don't know that I necessarily got it added to this, and I certainly will make this adjustment, is that the currently existing small class supplements, we would allow them to be grandfathered in and remain as a small class supplement. Ideally, though, it'd be good to have the riders submitted so everybody's conforming to the same process overall. With that, I'd like to step back and open it up for any questions, thoughts, or concerns.
Mike, I do have one question, and this is language that's been in the small class or the multi-campus adjustment, and that's the third bullet. There may be more than one site in the separate location if the separate site meets all the criteria for eligibility. Do you know what that means? I mean, can you give an example of what you think that means?
You know, I think that, for example, and Kristen, not to pick on you, but Texas A&M, for example, has 2 sites within the confines of the greater Houston area. And so I think it's in that case where, you know, again, 2 distinctly different sites. They are, it is the greater Houston area, so it's a pretty big swatch of space. And so there are, you know, it makes sense in their respect to have that included. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, those both do get the multi-campus adjustment. Is that correct?
I was just pulling up my document. We actually only get it for one of the sites.
Oh, okay.
We do get it for a small class supplement. We get it for both locations.
Gotcha. So let me then turn it around a little bit, and I see that we have Jennifer Gonzalez from the coordinating board on the call as well. Perhaps we can have Jennifer provide a little insight on that.
So the space model is only going to be able to determine your location by zip. So if we say that currently, this is what I'm saying, it's not a super robust system. If it says that we're going to give, you know, we're going to allow XYZ University to pull in space from a certain area, what it does is it pulls in the report city, and whatever zips are within that report city are going to pull in. So it's not so if it's in that same zip, it could be pulled into the space model multi-campus adjustment.
Gotcha. So in those cases where they are in differing zips, you potentially could have two or separate multi-campus adjustments. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Penny, I don't know if that deals with the question you had in mind. Okay. Other thoughts, questions, or edits? Hearing none, could I have a motion to move forward with this recommendation?
So moved, Mike.
Okay, for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Angelica. If we could all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed or any opposed? Okay, well, we'll move forward with this recommendation. Just as we will continue to do some wordsmithing on these documents. It won't change the recommendation. But it's if as you have a chance to look at it, we have not finalized the document as of yet. That's for I'm sure a much awaited future meeting, and we'll go from there. We'll have the entire document. We'll actually be asking to be blessed at that time. But certainly, if questions or concerns or thoughts for edits need to come up, we can certainly continue to bubble them up over the next month and make edits as need be. The next was the charge 5 dealing with mission specific formulas. And Tomas, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to, since you were the leader of the work group, turn it over to you for the recommendation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. As we shared in our last meeting, the working group developed a recommendation of a historical account and detailed summary of the mission-specific formulas, which we included in the attachment A. For today, I have three items. 2 are updates for the committee, and 1 does require a vote as my preference. Update number 1, Melita is working on updating the report to include 2023 research expenditure numbers. As we all know, we submitted our sources and uses to the coordinating board December 1. So as we pull those are part of the editorial updates that Mike is referencing as we're finalizing the report. Update number 2, we are working on a return on investment table, as Melita shared in her email. The hope is that we demonstrate the growth in research expenditure numbers across all institutions since the implementation of the mission-specific research formulas. Our plan is to get that out to the full committee by the end of this week. Hopefully, if you don't mind, please review, provide any updates. And our goal is to incorporate that into our final report once we get to that, hopefully soon, Mike. The last one is really the bulk of the items for today, which does require a vote. As we discussed last meeting, we would like to amend the Charge 5 recommendation to reference the committee's desire that the legislature consider including SB 30 appropriations into the 2026-27 base funding for all HRIs for the upcoming 89th legislative session. Melita shared the proposed language in her emails yesterday, and it's pretty much identical to the language that we had included in the working group report that we had shared previously with the working group committees. So I don't know if anybody has any comments, if you had opportunity to review, any comments about the proposed language. Not, could I get them? Go ahead, Mike.
Tomas, before you move on, we had I think there was some concern that we really didn't want to bring this forward if it wasn't going to pass the LBB muster, and I believe you have reached out. Could you fill us in on what they were shared?
Sure. So I do have to call in at the LBB, and as we got shared previously with them, he had a question about, does the recommendation include incorporating the SB 30 amounts into the governor, which I said yes, of course, that would adjust the governor, or that's a recommendation for the governors to be adjusted accordingly, but also to be included in the base funding. So he was supportive and was okay with the proposed language that we're sharing today.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comment from anybody in the team? How can I get a motion to approve the proposed language?
So moved.
Thank you, Mike. Any
Second.
second? Oh, thank you, Dr. Chase. Back to you, Mike.
Okay, all in favor of this?
All in
change?
favor? Right. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed?
Dr. Chase, you had a question? Oh, or
No, that was my eye. That was my
your
eye.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. This is so we've now accepted the recommendations of the work groups. We've incorporated those into the report as recommendations of the committee as a whole. And we'll move forward. We rescheduled the January meeting to January 17th to give people a little bit of time with the holiday break and everything. The idea would be hopefully we'll have all the updated stats that generally come out in mid-December incorporated into the final report. As we wrap that report up, we will circulate it to the committee for your review, edits, comments, and then the idea would be on Wednesday, January 17th, that we would meet probably very briefly to finalize the acceptance of the report and the recommendation to move it forward to the commissioner. Any thoughts or questions before we adjourn? With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, plenty of motions there. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, I appreciate everybody joining us this morning, and I look forward to getting this wrapped up and submitted back to you for the 17th approvals.